You know that feeling, that knot in your stomach or that tension in your shoulders that just won't quit no matter how much you try to rationalize it away? Well, that's because our bodies, they keep the score. They hold on to our experiences and our stress in ways our conscious mind sometimes can't even touch. So today, let's dive right into that.
So to really get this, we need to understand two very different ways of approaching therapy. On one side, you've got your classic top-down therapy. This is probably what most of us picture. It all starts with your thoughts, your cognitive mind. The whole idea is to analyze, reframe, and basically think your way out of a problem. But on the other side, you've got the bottom-up approach. And this flips the whole script. It starts with the body, with those physical sensations, and it's all about feeling your way through it.
And that really brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? What happens when thinking isn't enough? We've all been there. You logically know what you should do. You understand the situation perfectly, but you still feel totally, utterly stuck. So, what gives when your brain hits a brick wall?
Okay, so this leads us to our first big point. The mind isn't everything. We're about to explore exactly why we get stuck and why sometimes our brilliant, logical minds just aren't the only tool we need for the job.
Let me give you a perfect example to make this super clear. Think about a smoker. They know all the health risks, right? They've seen the scary pictures, they've read the warnings, they get it on a logical level, but they still can't quit. It's like that urge, that habit, is coming from somewhere way deeper, a place that logic just can't reason with.
And that gets right to the heart of it. When your logic and willpower fail, it's a huge clue that the problem isn't just in your head. It's a body problem. It's like something else, something stored deep in your physiology, has its foot on the brake. And that something else is exactly what these bottom-up techniques are designed to work with.
Which brings us right to our main event, a therapy that doesn't just talk about your feelings, but actually learns to listen to them, straight from the source, straight from the body itself. So what is somatic hypnotherapy? Well, it's this really cool blend of two powerful ideas. It takes the focused, relaxed state of hypnosis and marries it with a deep, intentional awareness of the body. The whole foundation is this. Our trauma, our stress, our big emotions, they don't just hang out in our memories. Nope. They can actually get stuck in our bodies as physical tension or chronic pain or that stubborn knot in your gut.
And I love this quote because it just nails the difference. See, traditional talk therapy might ask, "So, tell me what happened to you." But somatic therapy comes at it from a completely different angle. It asks, "Tell me what's happening in your body right now." It's a huge shift in focus.
The skill we use to do this actually has a name. It's called interoception. Just think of it like your body's own internal messaging system. It's that sense that tells you, hey, I'm hungry or I'm thirsty, or that lets you know that anxiety feels like a cold wave washing through your chest. Somatic therapy is really all about learning to tune in and turn up the volume on that sense.
Okay. So this all sounds really interesting, but how does it actually play out? What does a session look like? What does it feel like? Let's break down the actual process.
Generally, this journey of reconnecting with what your body is holding follows three main stages. You've got to start with safety, then you can move into paying attention, and finally, you learn to understand and work with resistance. Let's take a look at each one.
First up, and you could argue it's the most important step, is safety. Think about it. Your body is not going to release deeply held tension or trauma if it feels threatened. So before you dive into anything heavy, the whole point is to create an island of safety. And this can be super simple stuff, like really feeling your feet on the floor, imagining a place you feel totally at peace, or even just the simple act of placing a hand over your heart.
So once that foundation of safety is there, you can move to stage 2, attention. This is where you gently turn your focus inward, to what's often called the felt sense of an emotion. The key here is you're not trying to figure it out or analyze it. You're just noticing. Where is it? What's its texture? Sometimes this is done in tiny little microdoses, so it never feels like too much. And that brings us to the final stage, which can be the trickiest, resistance. Look, it's totally natural for our bodies and minds to want to avoid painful feelings. Resistance is a survival mechanism. It can show up in all sorts of sneaky ways, a sudden headache, getting lost in your thoughts, or even feeling confused when the emotion underneath it all is actually anger. The goal isn't to fight the resistance, but to get curious about it.
All right, so we've got the stages down. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty and look at some of the actual tools and techniques that are used to move through them. So, there are a few foundational techniques that are just essential here. First, breath work. Simple, slow, deep breaths are one of the fastest ways to tell your nervous system, hey, you're safe. Then there's grounding, which is all about literally feeling your connection to the earth to anchor you in the now. And of course, body scanning, which is like taking a gentle, curious tour through your body, just noticing what you feel without needing to change a thing.
Now, this next one is a biggie. It's called pendulation. The best way to think about it is like dipping your toe into a chilly pool and then pulling it right back out onto the warm, sunny deck. That's pendulation for your emotions. You gently shift your awareness from a stressful feeling back to that safe, resourceful feeling. And by going back and forth, you're slowly teaching your nervous system that it can handle difficult feelings without getting totally overwhelmed. You're building resilience.
And this one is so cool. It's called somatic reframing. This is where you actually use your imagination to interact with a physical sensation. So while you're in that relaxed state, a therapist might guide you to visualize that knot in your stomach. What if it had a shape, a color? What if it could speak? By doing this, you're creating a little bit of distance, and from that space, you can start to transform it. Maybe you imagine it softening or changing color or just dissolving away. It's an incredible way to take back control.
So we've talked about the what and the how. Now for the big one. Who is this actually for, and why does it matter?
Well, as you can see, it's got a pretty wide range of uses, but it really shines in a few key areas. It's a powerhouse for dealing with trauma and PTSD, because so much of that is stored in the body's fight-or-flight system. It's also fantastic for anxiety, chronic pain, and really for anyone who just struggles to regulate their emotions. And to get even more specific, this kind of work can be an absolute game changer for trauma survivors who find talking about the past just way too overwhelming. It's great for people with anxiety who tend to get stuck living in their heads, and it's a huge help for people whose stress shows up physically, think tension headaches or IBS, not to mention for chronic pain sufferers who are looking for options beyond medication.
And at the end of the day, it's so important to remember the goal here. It's not about forcing you to relive anything painful. The real goal is to help your body finally complete those old stress responses that got stuck, to release that stored energy and to heal those deep-rooted issues in a way that feels safe and gentle, all while boosting your overall self-awareness.
So I'll just leave you with this one final question to think about. If you were to just pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and really listen, what is your body trying to tell you?